When we think about the cybersecurity threat landscape, it's easy to focus on attackers coming from the outside, but internal threats can sometimes be just as dangerous, if not more dangerous, than outside threats. In this video, I'll cover what insider threats are and why we should be concerned about them. Insiders can include anybody who has inside information about your organization's data, IT systems, and security practices. This can include current or former employees, vendors with internal access, third-party contractors, and business partners. The reason why insider threats can sometimes be more dangerous than outside threats is because trusted insiders have been given access to assets and data based on that trust, and that access can be misused or abused. Insider attacks can also be hard to detect because trusted insiders may have legitimate access that allows them to access and steal data without going through firewalls or other controls that could track their activity. Types of malicious insider attacks include sabotage, where the goal is to damage systems or destroy data; fraud, which can come in many forms but often involves criminal financial transactions; theft of sensitive data or intellectual property; and espionage, where the attacker steals sensitive data to sell to competitors. An example of a real-world malicious insider attack was the case of a trusted software engineer at a cloud services provider who went rogue. She hacked into one of their customers using a firewall vulnerability that she found. She was then able to access accounts of millions of credit card customers. The hacked company recovered from the attack and patched the vulnerability, but they estimated the total cost of the incident to be around $150 million. Unintentional insider threats include human error, bad judgment, falling victim to a phishing attack or malware, and unintentionally aiding an attacker. An example of an unintentional insider threat was the case of an employee who had a question about how to format some of the data on a company spreadsheet. He emailed the spreadsheet to his wife's personal email account to ask her for help. While this may have seemed like a harmless action, it turned out that the spreadsheet had hidden columns which included sensitive employee data. This turned his simple email into a major security breach that had to be reported to the state's attorney general and likely cost the company millions of dollars. The Ponemon Institute regularly publishes reports on the cost of insider threats. Their research shows that the average cost from insider threats in North American companies is millions of dollars, and the cost is rising every year. That's why we can expect that insider threats will continue to hold a place in the cybersecurity threat landscape for years to come. Insider threats can be dangerous and hard to detect. In this video, I'll show you 4 steps you can take to protect your organization against insider threats. First, if you haven't already, take the time to identify the critical assets in your organization. These are the IT systems that are essential for the operations of your business, have the most sensitive information, or both. When you identify the critical assets, ensure that they are being properly protected and monitored. Also, review and validate who has access to these assets. Confirm that everyone who has access to them really needs that access. It's a good idea to conduct these asset access reviews on a regular basis. Next, write and enforce policies and processes that can protect against insider threats. Examples of these policies and processes include an acceptable use policy, which defines authorized and unauthorized use of your organization's assets. Without an acceptable use policy, an employee could claim they didn't know that their malicious activity wasn't allowed. Once your acceptable use policy is written, make sure all employees read and agree to follow it. A policy on the proper use of admin accounts. This will define who is authorized to have admin accounts and how these accounts are allowed to be used. A clear employee performance review process, including requirements for promotions and financial bonuses. This is often handled by HR and is necessary to avoid misunderstandings that could lead to disgruntled employees. A process for addressing employee grievances. This is also often an HR process and is necessary to help prevent unhappy employees from becoming insider threats. And an offboarding process that quickly removes access from employees who are no longer in the organization. Third, let's look at some technical security controls that can be implemented to protect against insider threats. To avoid having insider threats go undetected, you should monitor user activities, especially on your critical assets. One of the best tools for doing this is a Security Information and Event Management System, or SIEM. A SIEM will collect and analyze event log activity from all your systems and can help identify suspicious or malicious activity. When it comes to access, it's important to follow the least privilege principle. Only grant the bare minimum of privilege that someone needs to do their job. Regularly review each user's privileges to make sure they're not excessive. And use network segmentation to isolate the critical assets from the rest of the network. This will help protect those assets from insider threats who shouldn't have access to those parts of the network. Finally, user security awareness training can be an important way to protect against insider threats. Teach users about the acceptable use of your organization's assets. Let users know that their activity is being monitored and the consequences of unauthorized activities. And remind users to report any suspicious activity to the appropriate parties in your organization. Although insider threats are a growing part of the cybersecurity threat landscape, you can take the steps I covered in this video to help protect your organization against them.